This is Esther at Stampin Star Creations with another Christmas Stampathon 2021. This month's theme is to create a set of 4 cards using some embossing. I've started off with a piece of very vanilla cardstock and I'm scoring this in half both ways. This just gives me a guideline so that I know where to put my stamping in each section. Grabbing out the 2-inch circle punch, and I'm going to use some post-it notes to cut through them, a layer of 4, and then I'm going to use the negative piece as my mask and stencil. So laying them down on each section and then coming in with a crumb cake and my blending brush, I'm going to carefully blend inside that circle. Making sure to avoid to go too near the edge. And then peel and reveal. And this gives you a nice shaded circle area. Now all this effort, and in the end it doesn't show up as much on the end result, but it was just the nature of the way that the card went. So using the stamp set called Peaceful Boughs, I'm using the medium size leaf sprig in a mossy meadow and doing some second generation stamping twice to create some foliage around each of the circles. So each of the designs is slightly different, placing the leaves in a different area on each. Then bringing in the smaller bough, and I'm just stamping that to fill out the foliage. Coming in with early espresso and some cinnamon cider, I've chosen the smallest pine cone in the set, stamping in cinnamon cider first and doing the rock and roll technique around the darker colour. Using my blending brush, tapping over it just to help to blend those two colours together. So filling out the paper with my pine cones in various places and then coming in with the spots with crumb cake. Again, this is from the same stamp set. The spots just help to bring the whole picture to life. Now this next bit, I didn't know whether I should have added this, but I went ahead and added this stamp from Comfort and Hope. I wanted a vintage inspired Christmas card and I wanted some texture to it, so I went ahead and added this kind of parquet flooring stamp. Trimming down each of my pieces to 5 7/8 by 3 7/8. And running it through this textured embossing folder for each of the pieces. Placing the card in the middle and just sandwich it in between, making sure it's nice and straight. And this particular embossing folder leaves a really lovely kind of canvas look to it. So here's the result of it coming out of the machine. There you go, look at that. That texture is amazing. It does look like you have painted on a canvas. So I'm going to run the rest of these 4 projects through the machine in the same way and edging the outside again with my blending brush to create some more vintage effect. So side by side with one I haven't done, you can immediately see the difference. Bringing in my Stamparatus, I wanted to do some heat embossing. And now I know that I'm working on a bumpy surface, but I was interested to find out if I layered enough of the Versamark ink, about 3 to 5 times, will it still show up on the textured effect? And it did. It worked on this one, but unfortunately I've gone right over the fern and you can't actually see the writing. So I try again with the rest and adding some extra detail using the Comfort and Hope stamp set. Using early espresso, I'm edging around the edge. It just looked a bit lost and needed something to draw your eye even more to the centre. So just brushing it carefully along the edges of my card. Once that's done, I'm getting the linen thread, and in the opposite corner of where my sentiment is, I am having the end loop of the thread and just wrapping it around about 3 times and tying it off in a knot. So these are the results of the card, and as you can see, the more that I did, some of the embossing didn't actually come out depending on the texture of the card. So I decided that wouldn't do because you just can't see the sentiment. So I've gone ahead and stamped the sentiments again on a strip of Very Vanilla, and now I was interested to see whether after the embossing, if I then dry embossed, would it come out, and sure enough it does. It doesn't crack the heat embossing at all, it did actually come out. But having that textured embossing on the textured embossed card just looked a bit too much, and I decided not to use that piece in the end, but just go for the plain pieces. Giving it the same treatment as the main card, edging it in the early espresso, and then mounting it on a piece of Merry Merlot. Trimming those pieces down and then just fitting them on top of my existing sentiment on the card. Using the glue to go around the thread, and then the whole piece is going to sit on some matching Merry Merlot cardstock. And here are the results of the cards. I'm pleased with the way that the sentiments came out in the end, and I'm pleased that I persevered and tried something else with them. As you can see, the masking on the circle kind of disappears a little bit on the card, but it still adds a bit of texture and a focal point on the card. So please do feel free to join in if you have got some Stampin' Up supplies, and if you're on Facebook, head over to Christmas Stampathon 2021 for this challenge. Please subscribe and give me a thumbs up.